Good morning, everybody. Greetings, I should say, I guess. Hoping everybody's had a good rest and is ready for a wonderful day, enjoying life, living life, and loving life. I'm on this morning with a call for aid. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Good morning, Jewel. Appreciate you coming on. I've got some information I want to put out there. First, I'm going to start out with some of you might recognize the discussions here lately in regards to Zoom platform. I've been trying to open a Zoom account for 2 months now, and they keep demanding that I have to give them a tax-exempt certificate in order to publicly accommodate the Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union. So I ended up through 2 months of trying to negotiate in private. Matthew 18, verse 15, go to your brother in private, 2 months. And it fails, and through multiple discussions with multiple people, and every time going back to the same issue of trying to get me to communicate with the IRS, a debt collector. And that's creating an impossibility. So I sent them a notice that I filed a complaint with the FTC, Federal Communications Commissions, because they're using the international web as a .com site, Zoom.com, Zoom.us. When you get on a Zoom.us and open a room, it comes up Zoom.com. So we have to realize that they're operating a commercial venue, and in that, they want me to take upon a liability, and I can't do that. They created an impossibility by telling me I have to communicate with the Internal Revenue Service and report that I'm some kind of organized establishment under the government entities and thereby somehow government owned or controlled, and I'm not. So the notice has been sent, and I'll show you that. But today I got a notice that I looked up myself. I just did a video yesterday, and I told people to go ahead and look me up, look up Keith Orland Little on that public record that they pose. And in that public record, I looked it up, and come to find out they got a bench warrant. So we're going to take a look at that, and I'm going to show you the fallacy of their bench warrant. And because they put out a bench warrant, I've put out a call for aid, Mayday, 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 which is an international distress call for aid, and they can't deny it. It's made in the international forum, a communications forum regulated by the Postal Service, the Global Postal Service Trust. So what I did was I looked up, you go to Iowa Courts Online, and it'll bring up Iowa Courts Online search. And it says state.iowa.us, iowacourts.state.iowa.us. You click on there, and it says start a case search. So we start a case search, and then it says trial court or appellate court. I've never been on appeal. I just 93 cases and just got slammed right through. So we're going to do the trial court search, and it says available to all users. And over here, remember, I keep telling everybody about the firm name and the obligor number. Right here on the open internet, public domain, open source, fair use. They have it. They show it as that I show on the financial index that I received in definitive paper form from the local court clerk or clerk of court. And it says /firm name. And in English grammar parlance, when you see that slash, it means you can substitute one for the other. And what they did was they substituted the firm for the last name. I've never used a firm name. I've always used the last name, which is the full 6 letters, Little, whereas the firm name is a conversion of the last name, a substitute, and it consists of only the first 4 letters of the last name. So I've always used Little, and it comes up Keith. We put in all roles, and when we look at roles, it says attorney, not judge, administrator, applicant, attorney, and guardian ad litem. It goes through all these different things: attorney for defendant, attorney for father, attorney for mother, attorney for parent, attorney for petitioner, attorney for plaintiff, attorney for probate, attorney for respondent, limited appearance, all this stuff. Obligor. Search, and there's one, I guess there's 2 cases. This one here is Keith Robert Little, so that's not me, okay? Internal civil payments. This one here is me, or relative to myself. And you notice it's last name, comma, first, and then middle. And it says right there, obligor. Okay, that's the true obligor, last, and then first, middle. You look at your Social Security card, it's going to have your first, middle, last. And on here, it's in relations to a divorce. Sally Little versus Keith Little. Okay. Still, you see the conversion? Keith Little at the state level, in the state marriage, as an obligor under the military name of the federal United States citizen. Okay, now let's go back. We're going to change this. We're going to go back to all. We're going to search. And it's going to give us all those 93 cases. And it's going to tell us over here what they are. You know, defendant, pro se defendant, respondent, petitioner, defendant, pro se defendant, interested party, all these different things. Respondent, there's that obligor. Again, that's Sally Little versus Keith Little. You see another one, Sally Little versus Keith Little, and they name respondent, defendant for Sally Little. So it was respondent, obligor, defendant, and then this one here is Sally Ann Little versus Keith Orland Little. What's the difference there? See, now it went from Keith Little to Keith Orland Little. See, they use all different kinds of styles. USA versus Gideon / Little et al. So it was USA versus both Sally Little as her maiden name and Little et al. All others. State versus Keith Little. USA versus Sally Gideon et al. So that was USA against both Sally Gideon and USA against Keith Little. Or Gideon Little marriage. So let's go up to this one here. This is the one I noticed. Notice the date, 12/21/2021. I haven't had any interactions with anybody in regards to entering documents into their system. And it says, in the matter of the jury service of Keith Little. Jury service. Can you imagine that, folks? They tried to summons me for jury duty. Okay? They tried to summons Keith Little for jury duty. And again, they're showing the same conversion, Little Keith Orland. On one side of the record, the United States citizen, and on the other side of the record, showing dual citizenship. And when we click on the link, it brings us to the main page. And you can see where you got the summary, exhibits, parties, financial, long title, bonds, filing, service, property list pendants, traffic details, criminal charges, disposition, judgment liens. Ask for a username for judgment liens. Criminal charges, disposition. No charges found. No charges found. In the matter of the jury service, Keith Little, no charges. Traffic details, got to find out. Property list pendants, got to find out. Bonds, no bonds found. So there is no bound. I'm not bound. There's nothing bound. Long title, no long title found. Notice it says citation number. And there's no citation number citing it and no title found to cite it. We look at filings. Order to issue public bench warrant. Dreyer, Andrea. The same form of the dual citizenship that we saw in Little Keith Orland. However, it does not include the middle name. Doesn't have to include the middle name. Comments. Bond set at $350. Excuse me? Excuse me? Wait a minute. No disposition records were found. No bonds were found. Huh? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Bond set. Who the fuck is this idiot? Excuse my language. I'm supposed to be coming in peace. Return of service. Diligent search telling us that they did a diligent search, but they had a return of service because they couldn't find in the matter of jury service, Keith Little. They couldn't find him. Pay attention, people. In this issuance, they now have a copy sent to the Blackhawk County Sheriffs to serve the defendant, while at the same time, under LII WEX, which is Cornell College, Law School, personal jurisdiction, tells us obtaining personal jurisdiction, typically for a court to have personal jurisdiction over a defendant, the plaintiff needs to serve the defendant in the state in which the court sits. They did not serve. They admit they failed to serve and had return of service, diligent search, and the defendant needs to voluntarily appear in court. Okay? So they fail in all elements of every jurisdiction, and therefore they fail. And so I sent them a notice in regards to a bench warrant. Mayday, 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 epoch number. When I created this document, you look up that number and it will tell you what time I created this document. Attention, District Court Judge, District 1B, Judicial Title of the Iowa Judicial Branch, Andrea J. Dreyer, child of Ruach HaKodesh, doing business as Dreyer Andrea, has filed order to issue public bench warrant. ADA Coordinator, Judicial Personality, Americans with Disabilities Act Coordinator, Lena Height, child of Ruach HaKodesh, and her email. This one I didn't find an email, so we just noticed her through the District Court Judge, Judicial Personality, Judicial Title, Judicial Branch. You look up ADA Coordinator, it's part of the Judicial Branch. And I also noticed the County Attorney as co-trustee of estates of decedents, Brian Williams, child of Ruach HaKodesh, and sent him an email. issued without a citation, for which then to show cause. In other words, if there's no citation, then there's no reason for anybody to show cause. So your demand to show cause is without warrant, and therefore you've issued an invalid bench warrant, and a warrant that has to be issued on the service and the voluntary appearance of the defendant in the court. Title: in the matter of the jury service of Keith Little case, Black Hawk. Citation: this classification not prima facie, certainly deceptive on its face, and without a proper Office of Management budget number. See, they posted a bond, said there's no bond. They posted a bond, and on the face said there's no bond. One way or another, the record proves an error, negligence, incompetence, or outright lying. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. From the Journal of Keith Orland Little, FBU, issued by Keith, the Redeemed. I am his. I do not have a duty to serve your jury. I'm his. Fear not, for I have been redeemed. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. We are sent in peace, we shall grant a redemption. I was redeemed, and in his possession, as a stranger and sojourner with him, in all of the lands which are his, and shall not be sold forever. I am the Redeemer with him. Keith is the flesh and blood image and likeness of Jesus Christ, who is his surety for the manual motivator of the living soul, with the prior spiritual guidance to walk with him solely. Made in good faith with considerable conscience, thought, and observance, and in seeking providence of our Creator's grace. Rigor juris, strictly law. This original literary work of our declaration and opinion is not transmitted through the mail, or transmitted, that should be in the mails, transmitted in the mails of the United States, but delivered through the post office and or its routing system, consisting of the World Wide Web and all others, non-domestic and without the United States. No letters of incorporation recorded, or filed, or registered. Produced with the following, and hereby adopted for ratification and enforcement if needed. UPU, Universal Postal Union, disclaimer and copyright, justifying all sources within their public domain, known as the Union, and only known to be a territory in fact and not in nature. Disclaimer: anyone may use or reproduce any information presented on this website, subject to any specific terms of use that might appear with such information, provided that the use of such information is accompanied by an acknowledgement that the UPU is the source. As I've said, produced with the following and adopted for ratification and enforcement if needed. UPU, disclaimer and copyright. The UPU makes every effort to ensure but cannot and does not guarantee, and makes no warranties as to the accuracy, accessibility, integrity, and timeliness of any information presented on this website. The UPU assumes no liability or responsibility for any errors or omissions in the content of this website, and further disclaims any liability of any nature for any loss howsoever caused in connection with using this website, including failure of performance, computer virus, or communication line failure, regardless of cause or for any damages resulting therefrom. The UPU may make changes to these materials at any time without notice. Hyperlinks to other websites are provided as a convenience only and imply neither responsibility for nor approval of the information contained in those other websites on the part of the UPU. The UPU makes no warranty, either express or implied, as to the accuracy, availability, reliability, or content of such information, text, graphics, and hyperlinks. The UPU has not tested any software content located on other sites and does not make any representations as to the quality, safety, reliability, or suitability of such software. As the case may be, the collection and retention of personal information by the UPU through its website may be subject to the terms of a UPU privacy policy. Nothing in or relating to this disclaimer or the UPU website shall be deemed a waiver, explicit or implied, of any of the privileges and immunities of the UPU. Privileges and immunities. Privileges because they have no rights. They are self-granted privileges as a union of people of nations around the world. Copyright. Nations, I said. Universal Postal Union, all rights reserved. None of the material provided on this website may be used, reproduced, or transmitted in whole or in part, in any form, or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or use of any information storage and retrieval system, except as provided for in this website. See the disclaimer section. Anyone may use or reproduce any of this information on this website, accompanied by an acknowledgement that the UPU is the source. In any form, without permission in writing from the UPU or the publisher concerned. Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union being the publisher of this document, they have to ask our permission or the permission of the UPU to rewrite any of the information in this notice under this copyright disclaimer and protection. Access to databases of the UPU for consultation of documents and or information retrieval is permitted by the UPU subject to the user's acceptance of UPU's provisions and conditions of copyright contained within each document, which obliges the user not to duplicate the document or parts thereof for distribution or sale external to the user's organization. This goes to ex parte communications. Without prejudicial to the foregoing obligations, such information may be utilized in the receiving organization as required to further the work of the UPU. May be utilized by the receiving organization. I adopted it as a private foundation, not organized, but I still received it, and I'm utilizing it as a receiving end, on the receiving end, as required to further the work of the UPU, in agreement with the UPU, to provide guidance for product or service development and implementation and service support documentation associated with a product or service. We support and adopt these notices in ministry and unity of freedom of transit, which is in their Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, Article 1, pursuant to the 1611 version of the King James Bible at Psalms chapter 121 in verse 8, wherein it states, "The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore." A Global Postal Service Trust. We hereby contest the record and the process of issuance of said failure to appear. First and foremost, we require the issuer of said bench warrant for said judicial amount of $350 to prove the validity of personal jurisdiction being obtained. First, by the plaintiff needs to serve the defendant in the state in which the court sits. They state in their own documentation, return of service, diligent, diligent search or something like that, basically stating that it was never served, to then be considered by Office of Management and Budget for that judicial determination of $350. The Iowa State District Court in and for Blackhawk County is where this is issued from. Iowa State District Court in and for Blackhawk County, issued by the Clerk of Courts by the order of the Dreyer Andrea, the one that issued that bond, said there was no bond but issued a bond. And the defendant needs to voluntarily appear in court. No matter how you look at it, when they try to drag this particular quote, defendant, first of all, let's clarify the defendant is a third person abstract noun in concise English and a total fiction. Ask any English major. The defendant cannot appear but in the ink in the paper. It is not a physical element. It is not a concrete noun. You cannot touch it. You cannot taste it. You cannot feel it. You cannot hear it. You cannot smell it. It is not tangible. Therefore, not being not tangible, it cannot actually appear in court. It is only a presumption, known as a legal fiction. There are no letters of incorporation recorded or filed or registered, not in fact chartered, not appropriate for eventual entry into the National Archives. No voter registration on record, folks. I have never registered to vote, and therefore cannot in fact invest in the court register investment system, which they have entered through use of that firm name and obligor number. Second, and most certainly equally as important, is the fact that we are not a resident nor a United States citizen as those terms are defined. We do not give consent to communicate about any supposed debt obligations. Congress did not lay such duty upon Keith Little. The record your court is posing has already shown a conversion of the last name to a firm name and a conversion of the Social Security number to an obligor number. These are in fact data elements we were not aware of nor fully knowledgeable of the conversion and its effects. When we gave a last name, we didn't know it was being converted to a firm name. When we gave a Social Security number, we did not know it was being converted to a obligor number. We did not know that by giving an address, we were operating as a resident. And the only persons allowed to reside in the zone, being a foreign trade zone, and whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board, are federal, state, or municipal officers or agents. Meaning you have to have taken an oath of office to perform the functions of said public office as a public trustee or a contracting agent thereof. We repent for our errors in admissions to those records and ask forgiveness for our accidents as we forgive all mistakes. The birth registration and subsequent records will show errors which require corrections and declassifications. Forced servitude is not had. It is impossible for us to hold a public duty. We are not qualified to place or allow to be placed a public liability upon, or place a liability upon the public record. That determination seems to be yours. We give notice of Articles 10 and 15 and 139 of the Libre Code specifically and not exclusively. Article 10. Martial law affects chiefly the police and the collection of public revenue and taxes, whether imposed by the expelled government or by the invader, and refers mainly to the support and efficiency of the Army and its safety, and the safety of its operations. 15. Military necessity admits of all direct destruction of life or limb of armed enemies. I do not own any military arms, and of other persons whose destruction is incidentally, those incident reports, unavoidable in the armed contests of the war. And therefore, this is why I'm contesting the record. It is not an armed contest. It allows of the capturing of every armed enemy. I am not armed. And every enemy of importance in regards to imports and exports. I do not produce services and goods. I am not a manufacturer for profit and gain or collateral. The only thing we do through the Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union is grant free education in prosperity and abundance of His word of love and peace to the hostile government or of peculiar danger to the captor. It allows of all destruction of property and obstruction of the ways and channels of traffic, travel, or communication, and all withholding of sustenance or means of life from the enemy, of the appropriation of whatever an enemy's country affords necessary for the subsistence and safety of the army. Again, that's that country, the nation. I'm not of the nation. I was born a prophet unto the nations, as we all were. Of whatever an enemy's country affords necessary for the subsistence and safety of the army, not its people. And of such deception as does not involve the breaking of good faith in either positively pledged or either positively pledged regarding agreements entered into during the war. And that's why I say improper entry. You cannot enter us into the war or to combat. We are not part of the war. Or supposed by the modern law of war to exist. And just like the modern law of war poses these existences, the modern presumptions presume the existence of private foundations, new and old private foundations. Men who take up arms against one another in public war do not cease on this account to be moral beings responsible to one another and to God. You do not cease on this account to be moral beings responsible to one another and to God. Article 139. An armistice is binding upon the belligerents from the day of the agreed commencement, but the officers of the armies are responsible from the day only when they receive official information of its existence. This is your notice of existence. See flag of convenience, flag state. You pose that Admiralty Maritime flag in your courts. We have never truly been in conflict, but rather just not clarifying things appropriately. We've all been having accidents and entering data elements causing mistakes. They're not meant to be entered into the National Archives. We require a full acquittance and discharge pursuant to directives to correct those records in the interest of the United States to be conveyed to, on, and for the account of the United States, found at 50 U.S.C. 4305b2, so that no person shall be held liable in any court. A Lord's release is a release for all, making all whole. We come in peace. We are in peace. We will pass in peace. Give us this day our daily bread, for a little leaven leaveneth the whole loaf. One is either a child of God or a member of a cult of personality. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. We ask only for providence of your grace, granted with patent intent to prove the law and not to destroy your law. Reverently, Chaplain Keith. Exhibit. Found in the public domain evidence of posting is patent. And then, of course, I show them where you find that, and you can copy paste this link. And it shows that site where you initially can see all of the information, and you can click on filings and see the filing where it says a bond, $350. And when you click on bonds, it says no bonds found. The text of it is here. And then I let them know, found in our possession and proving said heirs and source of all mark as O. In the Government Publishing Office Style Manual, Section 2.1, and others, a full financial index, which we would like expunged in the interest of all parties involved. This is a mandatory and automatic declassification, as the record must reflect accurately, and would most certainly deserve the proper recording before being filed into the Federal Register / National Archives. The Clerk of Court has these documents, and if need be can be acquired within, or we can provide valid documental copies that can be traced according to the electronic record via the book entries, which are electronic entries. Exhibition 3, Declaration of Supplemental Cause in True Nature by Query and Opinion in Reason. This is an international incident in our opinion. Maybe that is why there is no citation. We are not sure, but it is certain it fails to cite anything. Certainly nothing more than a presumption of facts before the court and already known as a legal fiction. Please take heed, as we are already presumed a private foundation and in the progressive nature of making corrections as mentioned. Our journalese will reflect this, In other words, the record that I've already produced over the last 2 years in the electronic forum, plus the record that they have where I have refused to sign anything, and they have put down on that record themselves, refused to sign, is an establishment of not having any further, what do they call, minimum contacts with the state forum. Your record will also reflect failure of minimum contacts. And this is actually why you have failed to serve as stated, and now are pleading with the court to grant that which cannot be granted. Rule 12 of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure in whole, and Rule 17 of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, and Rule 19 of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Keith Little is not a public officer, nor an agent thereof. Keith does not qualify for residency, citizenship, office, or otherwise of public duties. Keith is not organized and consisting of a charter and board of directors for which to hire an attorney for presentation or representation in those courts. Attorneys therefore have no authority to bring judgment quid pro quo, particularly as third-party interveners. King James Version of the Bible, Romans 13 verses 1 through 20. There is no power but that which is ordained by God. And then, of course, it shows the filing where, of course, there's no citation number, but yet there's a bond. In order to show cause. I believe Andrea J. Dreyer, doing business as Dreyer Andrea, I have now rebutted your so-called order to show cause. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Along with that, like I said, I gave a warning to, or I filed a complaint, I guess you call it. They call it a complaint to the Federal Trade Commission, Fraud Commission, in regards to the FCC violations. And so that has been filed in regards to Zoom, and you can see that on my site. That should hopefully explain the whole thing with Zoom. In the meantime, I did what I call the Lord's release, full-scale international level, the Lord's release. Again, Mayday, 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 with its own epoch number, when it was drawn up, showing that it was created and in development stages prior to the other. This is actually created after this other epoch number for the notice to the jury summons in relations to that. And so what we have is a document that I've been working on, and I've been posting various different drafts of it and the information contained that you can find on Facebook and various other places, proving that it was written or constructed prior to this notice I sent out to the in regards to the jury duty. And of course it starts out the same way. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. From the journal of Keith Orton Little, FBU, issued by Keith Little. Again, much like the other notice. image and likeness of Christ. Opinion is not transmitted through the mails. It's actually going to be, it should be, I'm going to go ahead and correct that. We can correct the record at any time. Transmitted in the mails of the United States, but delivered through the post office and or its routing. The same disclaimer and copyright. And I post here, why should one register a .post domain? This is the highest secure level domain extension one can have, and it is an exclusive and verified space on internet to the benefit of the global postal community governed by the Universal Postal Union. And as I said earlier, it's the Global Postal Service Trust. UPU is a specialized agency of the UN, not exclusive and not inclusive. It's an open offer. It's a public offer in the public domain. I note Rules of Land Warfare, Articles 58 through 61, wherein we declare through our symbolization our standing as a temple, a sacred temple of education and culture and the sovereignty of what is true in peace. We are not people of war. We do not hold armaments. We do not support armaments. We do not support licensure under the DIC Act, known as the Militia Act, wherein we can be participants in the armed conflicts of war. Libre Code, Article 38, private property, unless forfeited by crimes or by offenses of the owner. And if we're not subject to that code, we cannot commit crimes or offenses to that code. Cannot be penalized, can be seized only by way of military necessity for the support or other benefit of the Army of the United States. Again, that's Article 10 of the Libre Code that was mentioned in that other notice. The martial law affects chiefly the police and the collection of public revenue and taxes, whether by the expelled army or the occupying force, for the army and its safety and the safety of its operation. If the owner has not fled, the commanding officer will cause receipts to be given which may serve the spoliated owner to obtain indemnity. Indemnity being a hold harmless agreement, a peace agreement. Article 139, an armistice, a peace agreement, whereforth we accept the amnesty in repentance and grant our redemption through forgiveness for everybody. Hold harmless indemnification agreement is binding upon the belligerents from the day of the agreed commencement, but the officers of the armies are responsible from the day only when they receive official information of its existence. 1 U.S. Code, Section 112B, United States International Agreements, transmission to Congress. 1 U.S. Code 113, Little and Brown's edition of laws and treaties, slip laws, treaties, and other international acts series, admissibility and evidence. 1 U.S. Code 204, Codes and Supplements as evidence of the laws of the United States and District of Columbia, citation of codes and supplements. This is where that lady missed out the citation. There was no citation. Therefore, not admissible as evidence. So, back to our setup here. We gave notice. I sent notice out. And these are the cents. 2. And I did so today at 1:21 a.m., 1:20 a.m., 1:22, 1:23, 1:24, 1:25, 1:26, 1:28, 1:29, 1:30, 1:31. U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. The Pentagon. Criminal Justice System. FCC. The Pentagon. This is the actual General Counsel This is the Office of Justice of Criminal Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joint Chiefs of Staff and General Counsel at the Pentagon. International Committee on, what is it? United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, International Trade Commission, International Trade Administration. There's the Caroline Cross, Pentagon. We'll go back to our mail and show you Pentagon, the Court of Settlements, World Bank for Settlement, IRS, Charles Reddick, Commissioner, Department of Criminal Investigations, State of Iowa. This in relations to the Iowa Department of Public Safety and the Criminal Record, Federal Bureau of Investigation, State Bureau of Investigations. Lena Height, the ADA coordinator that we mentioned in the other Lord's release notice. Blackhawk County Clerk as well again, and the Blackhawk County Attorney. And again, it's posted. Here's the protection of fair use UPU disclaimer and copyright on the home page. And then when we go over here, we see the notice of Lord's release. Here's the notice we already previously mailed to the IRS in relations to the PayPal dispute. That has now been removed, but the notice to IRS remains. It will remain for 90 days. Whereas we removed the one for PayPal after 30 days. And now we have an international notice to Zoom that we gave the FTC a complaint on in regards to failure to publicly accommodate Federal Communications Commissions and negotiation terms. And now we have the notice of Lord's release that I just started reading to you in full. And it is noticed on the International Forum now. And you can go to my website and read it yourself. See all the information, all the sources, all the links. And anybody that wants to sit down and talk about this, we can feel free to do so. Because that's what it is. It's open for discussion. It's not open for accusation. It's open for correction. Open for discussion so we can correct the records. Everything that designed from that birth registration is developed on the intent to be entered into the National Archives. That is a bifurcation of Jeremiah Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. In their ordinances and their sanctioning through commercial bonding and limitations and stuff. That's the direct violation of Jeremiah 1:5. We are ordained and sanctified. Sanctified being made. Before thou was cast from the womb, I sanctified thee. I made thee. I ordained thee. I ordered thee. He put in order. He marshaled. Marshal, to put in order. So he made us in order. In that order, he made us like angels, and we're not meant to be writing this babbling scripture, this babbling script. So think about that stuff, and like I said, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is an aid, a call to aid. It is in relations to free education. Therefore, there cannot be any actual charges, and as we saw, there are no charges, yet they profess a bench warrant and issuing it to the Blackhawk County Sheriffs. Some kind of warrant, whether it be an arrest warrant or a search warrant. That's yet to be clarified too. So while I'm on the topic, I want to mention a very enlightening experience I had just before I had to post all this notice. Because if you look on my Facebook page, I had to post a notice about one of our family members, one of the creatures that I try to minister the gospel to, and that is what most people call a dog. And Eddie took off out the door after a rabbit. And in the course of events, I ended up getting a ride from one of the local county sheriff's deputies. Heaven sent. Called Jerome. Took me out kindly in his squad car to go find my dog. I had to run a few miles in the rain to try to chase him through yards, but he was willing to take me along for the ride. When I finally caught him, cornered him, had his lead, put him on his lead, and he did not want to go in that car just like I don't. So I had to physically pick him up and put him in the car, but once he got in the car, he's okay. And what I want to point out here is that they have no way to identify you. See, this bench warrant is issued. It was discussed evidently December 21st of 2021. And then they issued the warrant evidently the 5th, 6th, and 7th of January. They went through this process of filing things that weren't filed or recorded or whatever they think they did. And now it's making it look like on a record somewhere that somebody's going to have to come get me. Yet I was right within their grasp. If that warrant was valid and it actually did identify, it would be identified and they would be able to go get it to a certainty, just like a warrant says. Identify the thing and things to be searched or seized. They couldn't even serve the defendant, who they turned around and expressed that they want to seize, without really logically thinking about it. And this is why I talk about bring in an English major, folks. Trying to seize something that is intangible and bring it into a court. UCC 3-402. Authorized representative. Signature by authorized representative. The authorized representative granting an authorized signature, an unambiguous authorized signature on the instrument, is therefore not liable for the person named in the instrument. Again, these people make babbling claims that pose a real possible threat of somebody coming, another man, another living soul, because they've imposed upon themselves that same incredulous belief that they're supposed to come get me, the living soul. And again, like I said, this experience, the guy was great. Shook his hand, everything. As I'm looking for my dog with the Lamb of God shirt on. And now I get to profess the Lord's release. I hope you guys are coming to this call of aid as I only push to correct the record and ask for your observance to be able to recall it yourself in support of the truth that I am trying to profess. Because I believe everything I pose here from within the public domain is true, in fact, according to its relevance. And according to the relevance it shows, it's not relevant to this, my temple. And in that, I want to thank everybody for paying attention. And hopefully see that this is the one of the big steps on my sojourn to prove in my own way, and the only one I know of that's doing it this way, how to prove simply that the record is in error. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do so. I didn't know what I was doing before. I do now. And now I have a duty. That's all I'm stepping up for. So think about it. Remember again, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless you. I will post my PayPal link along with this video only. Like I said, you can go to the Wordwise Warrior website, .art, wordwisewarrior.art. If you don't know where to get that link, ask me. In the meantime, I'll post my PayPal link for anybody that wishes to share some love. Again, I could certainly use that, especially at this time. Tax season's over and it's been rough. So, God bless. And if anything, at least share this video. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. They cannot prevent it from being shared. I yield. God bless.